Hey all, Ron here from Military Images Magazine with a new episode of Life on the Civil War Research Trail. In a recent video, I shared this well known and haunting image of dead soldiers on the battlefield of Antietam taken by Alexander Gardner, who worked at the time for Matthew Brady's team of photographers. This image and others in the series taken by Gardner were available to the public within a month of the bloody battle, and the vivid, graphic depiction of mangled corpses both shocked and fascinated Americans who had been accustomed to seeing such battles only through the lens of artistic engravings or paintings. I also shared a poignant essay by an unnamed writer in the October 20th, 1862 issue of the New York Times that included this often published quote: Mr. Brady has done something to bring home to us the terrible reality and earnestness of war. If he has not brought bodies and laid them in our dooryards and along the streets, he has done something very like it. After recording that video, or more accurately, in the act of recording the video, it brought to mind another essay, this one in the Atlantic magazine's July 1863 issue. In this essay, we know the writer, Oliver Wendell Holmes Sr., a physician who made his name as an author of books. His best known may be The Autocrat of the Breakfast Table and many, many other writings. The Atlantic magazine essay, published the same month as Gettysburg and Vicksburg, is titled Doings of the Sunbeam, which is Holmes's 10,000 word meditation on the marvels of photography. One quote from Doings of the Sunbeam has been used by many, many researchers, including me, in talks that I've given about cartes de visite, also known as card photographs, those small paper images which were the Facebook of the 1860s. This is the quote that I use and many others, as I mentioned. Card portraits, Holmes wrote, which, as everybody knows, have become the social currency, the sentimental greenbacks of civilization. There is, however, another part of Holmes's essay that is rarely, if ever, quoted, and it relates to this image, Brady's Antietam dead images. In a passage just a few hundred words long, down towards the end of Holmes's essay, he turns his attention from all the technical marbles of the medium to what he describes as, quote, subjects of strange and sometimes of fearful interest. He is, of course, referencing the Antietam images. He also relates the photographs of the battlefield dead to a little known photograph of battlefield dead taken slightly more than 3 years earlier in Italy. I want to share this photograph with you. It's right here. It's part of a stereo view, half of a stereo view of a pile. As you can see, a pile of slain soldiers haphazardly piled in front of a damaged building. You can see fresh mounds of dirt, and to the very left, a hole that suggests that these bodies are about to be buried in a mass grave. There's an inscription which is outside the crop, so you can't see it here, but it's in French and it tells the tale. View of the cemetery of Melegnano the day after the battle. The inscription dates the image to June 9th, 1859. Just a day earlier, Austrian and Franco-Sardinian forces fought the Battle of Melegnano, part of the Second Italian War of Independence, fought between 1859 and 1861, and it led to the creation of the Kingdom of Italy. The battle was a defensive action by the Austrians after a major defeat 4 days earlier at the Battle of Magenta. The losses at Melegnano, though not as high as Antietam 3 years later, were nonetheless devastating. About 951 French and Sardinian dead and wounded and missing, and then 240 dead and wounded Austrians, plus another 1,114 prisoners. Now, back to Holmes's essay. I want to read the portion that's relevant to the photograph here of Melegnano and Antietam. You'll also hear mentions of Holmes himself going to the Antietam battlefield just after the fighting ended and making sketches, as he called them, for the December 1862 issue of the Atlantic. Holmes's sketches, in fact, are not sketches as we think of them as pictures, but actually word sketches describing his journey to find his seriously wounded son, Captain Oliver Wendell Holmes Jr. of the 20th Massachusetts Infantry, who survived his injuries. Holmes Sr. also mentions two historical artists, Baron Antoine Jean Gros and Horace Vernet. So, in Holmes's own words, I want to share his thoughts on the Antietam images. Holmes writes, "The field of photography is extending itself to embrace subjects of strange and sometimes of fearful interest. We have referred in a former article to a stereograph in a friend's collection showing the bodies of the slain heaped up for burial after the Battle of Melegnano. We now have before us a series of photographs showing the field of Antietam and the surrounding country as they appeared after the great battle of the 17th of September. These terrible mementos of one of the most sanguinary conflicts of the war we owe to the enterprise of Mr. Brady of New York. We ourselves were on the field upon the Sunday following the Wednesday when the battle took place. It is not, however, for us to bear witness to the fidelity of views which the truthful sunbeam has delineated in all their dread reality. The photographs bear witness to the accuracy of some of our own sketches in a paper published in the December number of this magazine. The ditch is figured, it's the burial area, still encumbered with the dead and strewed, as we saw it in the neighboring fields, with fragments and tatters. The colonel's gray horse is given in another picture, just as we saw him lying. Let him who wishes to know what war is look at this series of illustrations. These wrecks of manhood thrown together in careless heaps or ranged in ghastly rows for burial were alive but yesterday. How dear to their little circles far away, most of them, how little cared for here by the tired party whose office it is to consign them to the earth. An officer may here and there be recognized, but for the rest, if enemies, they will be counted, and that is all. 80 rebels are buried in this hole, was one of the epitaphs we read and recorded. Many people would not look through this series of photographs. Many, having seen it and dreamed of its horrors, would lock it up in some secret drawer that it might not thrill or revolt those whose soul sickens at such sights. It was nearly like visiting the battlefield to look over these views, that all the emotions excited by the actual sight of the stained and sordid scene, strewed with rags and wrecks, came back to us, and we buried them in the recesses of our cabinet, as we would have buried the mutilated remains of the dead they too vividly represented. Yet war and battles should have truth for their delineator. It is well enough for some Baron Gros or Horace Vernet to please an imperial master with fanciful portraits of what they are supposed to be. The honest sunshine, photography, is nature's sternest painter, yet the best. And that gives us, even without the crimson coloring which flows over the recent picture, some conception of what a repulsive, brutal, sickening, hideous thing it is, this dashing together of two frantic mobs to which we give the name of armies. The end to be attained justifies the means, we are willing to believe, but the sight of these pictures is a commentary on civilization such as a savage might well triumph to show its missionaries. Yet through such martyrdom must come our redemption. War is the surgery of crime. Bad as it is in itself, it always implies that something worse has gone before. Where is the American worthy of his privileges who does not now recognize the fact, if never until now, that the disease of our nation was organic, not functional, calling for the knife and not for washes and anodynes? So there you have the words of Oliver Wendell Holmes Sr., a portion of his much larger essay, Doings of the Sunbeam. Holmes takes a moment to reflect on this battlefield photograph of Antietam and how it was so repulsive. It stirred the emotion so much that the impulse was to lock it away in a cabinet and not look at them. But of course, others were fascinated. And of course, the relationship that Holmes draws to this photograph of a pile of slain soldiers following the Battle of Malignano in Italy in 1859, 3 summers earlier. So thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next episode of Life on the Civil War Research Trail.